And we are live with another edition of Keep Calm and Carry. I want to wish each and every single one of you a great Monday evening. Thank you so much for swinging by and spending time with me. I know that you guys have a lot of things going on. The weekend just ended and your week's just starting, but you guys took the time to spend it with me and my guest, and I cannot thank you enough. So, before we get into the actual live chat, I wanted to take a moment just to say, if you're new to Fit and Fire, I do have a website to supplement everything that's going on with my YouTube channel. It's fitandfire.com. Swing on by, check it out. Tell me what you guys think. I would love to hear your feedback. There's a way you can get in touch with me at the bottom of each one of the screens on my web page. So feel free to contact me. But my website is there to show you guys some great internet finds, some deals of the week. There's another way for you to find my older stuff if you're interested in seeing some of my older videos, and hopefully it's a good way to save you guys some money. It's also a great way to support the channel financially, because a lot of these links go to affiliate pages, and it's no extra cost to you. In most of the cases, you're actually saving some money as well. With that being said, thanks for everybody that has been supporting us through the website. So, got an interesting box in the mail just the other day. It is right here, and it came from these guys right here, Pew Pew Tactical. If you guys don't know about Pew Pew Tactical, take a few minutes after the show or whenever, maybe tomorrow, swing on by pewpewtactical.com. They are the top-ranked Google search for best AR-15, best AR-15 upgrades, best AR-15 optics, scopes, uppers, etc., etc. They are basically a blog spot. It's a kind of a one-stop shop for a number of different things, especially if you guys are looking for some great information. You can find it right here. They gave me this awesome t-shirt. I got a nice little patch right here, and then they check out this. Check this out. This is a nice little gun case they sent me. Pew Pew Tacticals. See that right on there? Love that. And then hooked me up with some MBUS sights as well. Some Magpul MBUS sights. That's going to go on my Arrow rifle. So my Arrow Precision AR-15. So I wanted to say thank you to Eric and a good old friend. You guys may remember him, Gun Gossip Johnny. Yep. He hooked me up with them. Eric, Johnny, thank you so much for sending out the swag pack. I sure do appreciate it. Real quick, I can't make this happen without my Patreons. I sure do appreciate all the support. It's there if you guys want to help out, but it's not required. It's only there if you guys feel the need. So real quick, I wanted to say hi and thank you to Andrew, Craig, the OG. He's the original Patreon right there. James, John, Luke, Philip, Puck, 66871, Semi-Armed Life, and The Real Gun Snob. Thank you guys so much. It means so much to me. I really do appreciate it. And you're helping out making this channel even better. So let's swing on by to the chat room real quick and let's say hi to everybody. We got Drew Lovelace first. He's one of the Patreon members I just said. Thank you so much. WW Clay 86, great to see you. GG, LFG, GG. Sir, thank you so much. Appreciate all the support. Love you. You Don't Know Me is in there, and I don't know who he is. So Izzy Long, he loves hard tacos, by the way. Keith, thank you so much for swinging by. The Grim Reaper, Mystery Family, Big Al is in the chat room as well. And then one of our staples, Nico, I saw what you did last night. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nico. I really appreciate all the help for Tundra Tactical. That was pretty awesome. And Andrew, Dalton Ray, good to see you so much. So let's just jump right into this. I am super excited for this live chat. This is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. Typically on live chats with Keep Calm and Carry, we're going to talk about guns, we're going to talk about working out, and so on and so forth. But this week we've got the Firearms Policy Coalition, and they are a huge spearhead in fighting for our Second Amendment rights. I'm not going to take the thunder away from Craig, but let's turn it over to Craig. Sir, thank you so much for swinging by. I'm going to toss it over to you. Tell me, sir, where does the Firearm Policy Coalition, where did it start? And tell me more about you and what you guys are aiming.
Sure. First of all, just thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you and speak with your viewers. we do whatever we can to try and get out and reach out to as many folks as possible to help them know and understand about the Firearms Policy Coalition and what we do. FPC is relatively new. We've only been in existence for about 5 years now. It started with a group of individuals who saw gun rights. We're based in the state of California. We started off here in California, based in Sacramento. We started off as a group of individuals who saw something and didn't really feel like the existing groups, firearms advocacy groups in the state of California, were really being as successful in doing what it was that we felt needed to be done to get people activated to support our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. We wanted to see an organization that reached out to a more diverse group of gun owners, not just ethnically, but in terms of age, gender, even political affiliation. I always like to say FPC is not a conservative organization. We're not a liberal organization. We're not we are a Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. We have people all the way from the Pink Pistols all the way over to the conservative of the conservative, who are part of the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're not a public safety group. We're not a hunting group. We don't believe that the Second Amendment was written with the idea of hunting in mind. Not that we're against hunting. We just don't believe that that's what the Second Amendment is about. We are first and foremost a Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. And what we've done and what we've focused on in the last 5 years is a form of digital grassroots engagement, utilizing new media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, emails, video production, live chats, all as a way in which to get people information about what's going on politically, what's going on policy-wise, and giving them an opportunity to easily get involved and get engaged and make their voice heard with policymakers who are making decisions. We went from an organization that didn't exist 5 years ago to one that has a social media following now of almost 400,000. Our YouTube channel, which we really just started pushing this year, has grown from 2,500 all the way. I think we're at almost 19,000 now subscribers. Once again, all of that with the idea that these are people who we're connecting with, getting them informed, and getting them engaged, and then sending them out to be active in the fight. We started off here in California. Now we have we lobby, actually have lobbyists in California and Nevada. I lobby California and Nevada. We also have another lobbyist who does Washington and Oregon, and then we both lobby in Washington, D.C., and we're always looking to expand additionally to other states. And that's another thing that we largely focus on is state policies, because we're recognizing that things have not changed in DC. In other words, it's really the groups like Bloomberg are realizing it's very difficult for them to pass gun control at the federal level. So now what they're doing is they're going after the states and local governments. So that's kind of for lack of a better term, a 5-minute description of who FPC is.
That's pretty awesome. Now, one of my favorite segments that you do on a daily basis, or as many days of the week as you possibly can, is Mornings with Craig. And if I remember correctly, something that caught my eye on the last one, you had a nice little pistol hanging out on the table. Which pistol is that you got hanging out with you?
Well, usually whatever firearm I'm carrying that day is the one that I'll have. So my favorite is my Glock 17C. It's a little bit bigger, so a lot of times, like during the summertime, I'll probably be more likely to carry my Smith & Wesson J frame, which is a little snub nose.
Yeah, there you go.
And then it's kind of funny because I actually just got an FMK, which you wouldn't think would be great, but once I switched out the trigger and put a fast action trigger on it, I love it almost as much as I love my Glock. So I'm usually alternating between one of those. If I'm doing a special message about assault weapons, then I might have my AR with me.
Very nice, very nice. So I have to ask, it's all the rage right now on social media. Initial thoughts of the Glock 45?
I don't know. Here's unfortunately the problem here in California. The Glock 45 is not on the roster. So because it's not on the not unsafe handgun roster in the state of California, We are not able to purchase it from a firearms dealer. In fact, it's probably a misdemeanor if I just look at it.
Touche, touche. I just wanted to see if you had a chance to check it out on social media. I know that Such just put out a video today about it, and to be honest with you, it looks like what the Gen 5 should have been. With
it,
yeah.
I don't disagree with you. It's just, unfortunately, what I find when I look at that, when I'm doing, it's like I'm just torturing myself. It's like every year when I go to SHOT, I'm looking at all of these, and I'm like, yeah, I can't have that, can't have that, can't have that. It's hard on a brother, let me tell you.
So you just had a trip to Chicago. What was going on in Chicago, and what did you end up doing there?
Well, now every year the Second Amendment Foundation puts on a conference. It's called the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and this is where people who are who want to learn about what's going on policy-wise in regards to the Second Amendment advocacy, hunting, all of that. They policymakers or people who are advocating for policy from various organizations from all across the country come together. People who are there locally, about half the attendees are usually folks who are locally from that area. So every year it's in different places. It's been in Tampa Bay. It's been in Dallas. It's been now in Chicago multiple times. Next year it's going to be in Phoenix. But it's really neat because it brings people together, not just the policymakers for us to, or the policy advocates for us to be able to talk with one another about best practices, what we're doing in our states that work, and what we're seeing in terms of policy or proposals from the anti-gun crowd. But it's also an opportunity to engage grassroots people who normally wouldn't get a chance to talk with people like John Lott or Alan Gura or Alan Gottlieb. I mean, it's an opportunity for them to really sit down and talk with them one-on-one and network with them and get excited about and to really understand the importance of being engaged when it comes to policy. Because I always tell people, look, hey, yes, you may love your firearms and you may not like to talk politics, but eventually someone is going to come after your beloved firearms if you're not willing to stand up and fight against them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was really hoping to be able to make it up there, but unfortunately, my day job only has a finite number of days for me to take vacation, and I have used them all.
Completely understand that.
Yeah, with family vacation and then SHOT Show and NRAM, and here a week from Saturday I've got a range day with Iraq veteran 8888, and so yeah, sometimes you just gotta pick and choose, unfortunately. I guess it's a good problem to have. So let's kind of get into one of the harder questions here, and this is something I think that you've been kind of touching on here recently with a lot of the interactions you did in Chicago, some of the videos that you've put out. But we hear a lot of local governments are kind of nibbling away at Heller versus DC, or flat out just ignoring it. So what are some of the examples, and how exactly does this affect us?
Well, what they're realizing, what a lot of these local municipalities are realizing, is two things. Number one, they're looking at the Heller decision and they're saying, okay, it may have given you the right to own or possess a firearm in your home. But then they go to this, well, but it does say that it can be regulated. So then what they do is they proceed then to regulate the right away. And they do things like utilizing zoning laws to make it so that it's almost impossible to open a gun store. One lawsuit that we've just got through dealing with, in essence, what the county of Alameda basically said was their policy was set up such that you could not locate a new gun store anywhere in the unincorporated county there in Alameda County. And the courts basically said, yeah, no, you don't have a right to sell firearms. We have seen other municipalities actually start to do that very same thing. We've seen them going after ammunition through ammunition registries, working to develop ammunition registry, as they've now developed in the state of California. It's supposed to take effect on July 1st, 2019. Now, we still don't know exactly how they're going to implement it, but these registries, they want to make it so that they can record the type of ammunition, who you are, where you live, the type of ammunition you buy, background checks on that ammunition, and then they're supposed to keep those records, so they'll know exactly what you bought, when you bought it. We're also looking and seeing where other civil rights are being violated, like the right to free speech. I don't know if you've been following our whole codeisfreespeech.com issue, but they're basically saying that, well, if it's Second Amendment related, they're saying they're trying to make it so that you cannot publish truthful, non-misleading, non-violent information. You've got it so that you have students who are going to school wearing T-shirts that say Firearms Policy Coalition or National Rifle Association, and they're being told that they either have to take them off, turn them inside out, or they're going to be disciplined. You know, it's one after another. They're going after these rights, and in particular on the West Coast, or when you're in one of those districts that, or the one of those circuits that clearly does not support the Second Amendment. In the Ninth Circuit, Court of Schlemiels, they definitely don't support the right to keep and bear arms. But they make these decisions and they completely and utterly ignore the law and ignore precedent in order to pass some of these decisions, because they know the chances are the Supreme Court won't take it up.
Very interesting. And one of the questions popping in from GG, I think I know what he's trying to get at. He says, do you see the liberals going after states' rights, meaning at the federal level, are they going to start stripping away state sovereignty and states' rights and their ability to enact their own inner border laws?
Well, I think that advocates of the 10th Amendment are actually going to spend a significant amount of time fighting against that. In essence, I think if you start to see stricter laws at the federal level, the thing here is that because so much of America are believers in the Second Amendment. And by the way, in particular, when you start getting into the South and in the Midwest, even many of the Democrats are supporters of the Second Amendment. That's the reason why they're having, or at the very least, they recognize their voters are supporters of the Second Amendment. That's the reason why they're having such a hard time passing any gun control at the federal level. That's why most of the energy, most of the effort, most of the money is going into local governments, into cities, counties, and state governments in order to get them to change their policies.
Very much so. Very much so. Yep. So it's definitely a big fight, and we're going to have to continue to press on. One of the questions that I had earlier today from a Patreon member was the idea between, that fight that you and a number of different groups are in legally, whether it be a lawsuit against the state or whatever the case may be. But the question was, can groups like the Firearm Policy Coalition or the Second Amendment Foundation coexist with the NRA? I know that those groups can kind of be at odds at some time. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think just like with any issue, there are individuals, there are different nuances in terms of position, in terms of skills, in terms of kind of the niches that organizations have. And I think that it's important for all of the organizations that exist to exist. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just put it all under one roof? Well, then you wouldn't have the diversity of opinion, because there are a lot of times, I'm sure, when people look at positions that the NRA takes, they disagree. And they may see that we take the position that they might happen to agree with, and vice versa. There are people who may see the position that the NRA takes on a particular firearms issue, and they maybe support their position over our position. So one, I think it's important to understand that there are differences. We are and I like to say this, we are first and foremost a Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. We're not a conservative group. We're not Republican. And although I'll be honest with you, I'm a card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I am, but when it comes to the Second Amendment, that's what we're here fighting for. And so we are probably more aggressive than some other organizations when it comes to calling out politicians, in particular when it comes to calling out politicians who are supposed to be on our side. You guys may have seen when President Trump came out and said, well, you know what, we'll take the guns first and due process later. Well, we were very aggressive in going after the president and making sure that our members, our supporters, let the president know that is not acceptable. We will never allow due process to be second. We'll never allow rights to be taken away first, and then due process. Then there's also the issue of everybody can't do everything. As big as the NRA is, they can't do everything. They cannot be everywhere. And so it gives us the ability, both the local state groups, as well as other groups like the Second Amendment Foundation, which specialize in a number of these lawsuits. I mean, you look at the majority of the significant lawsuits, the victories that have been had over the last, 15 years. The Second Amendment Foundation has been right there, either funding or has been a part of that lawsuit. So, their support in this is invaluable. So I think it's important for the organizations to find their fit, and and focus on where they are. And that's where I think that, yes, these organizations can coexist. We are going to disagree at times. We are going to butt head at times, but I think it's healthy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said diversity of thought. And I really do appreciate that. So I'm going to take a break here real quick. Let's swing on over to the chat room just to say, hey, I see a lot of questions coming through and I'm trying to get to them. You guys are just smashing the chat room. So you guys, it's going pretty quick. So I'll keep up as best I can. First and foremost, I want to say, Nico, thank you so much for the super chat. I sure do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We got a couple celebrities hanging out a little bit. We got 1776 or bust. I really appreciate you swinging by. Thanks, from the great state of New York, Empire State right there. And then Coda Boy 32 Tactical. Thank you, sir, for swinging by. I sure do appreciate it. He's voicing some concerns over some Democratic governor nominations down in Florida, that their whole platform is basically banning assault weapons. So I don't know how that's going to go over very well in Florida, even with some of the issues that they've had. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Alan B. Pro, thanks for swinging by. I sure do appreciate it. And let's see, I think I saw one other person swing in. If I miss you, I sure do appreciate. Oh, Wolf. Yes. See that Wolf jumped in. Wolf Walker. He says that Coda Boy 32 told him to swing on by. Thank you so much. I sure do appreciate it, Coda. Really do appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the chat. I had another question here for you, Craig. You mentioned Trump in there and the idea of eliminating due process. So kind of lead me into the next thing. And it's kind of, thanks for the softball, but executive overreach has been a hot topic in the previous and current administration. A lot of executive orders have been put out. There's a lot of people that are concerned about how much the executive branch is slowly starting to take a lot of the influence away from the Congress and the Senate. So how has that affected the gun community? And is there more to it than just the president's overreach, or is there more like localized overreach that you're seeing?
It's interesting. It's like I toss you a softball and you toss me a softball right back. Well, first of all, and I'll kind of take these in reverse order. It's not just the White House. It's not just the president. This is happening in states all across the country, whether it's governors or in many cases, attorneys general, where they are deciding, and you could take New York, for example, or which was Boston, the one where they basically decided, yeah, we're just going to refigure out, we're going to redecide what an assault weapon is.
Yes.
Here in the state of California, we've seen it happen more often than not, where as a matter of fact, we just won a lawsuit against our attorney general, where in essence, they decided they were going to just out of the blue decide, well, we're going to change how we interpret a particular law. Now, and not only did they not go through the process that they were supposed to do it, but they completely and utterly ignored the clear and plain language of the law. I mean, it is outrageous the way they are doing this. Now, it is in part executive overreach, but part of it, and I don't know if you had a chance to see Senator Ben Sasse when he was speaking during Kavanaugh's hearings, but a part of it is that the legislative branch is giving it away. In other words, things that should be defined in law, they're saying, we're going to hand it over to some bureaucrat in some ABC organization to provide a definition and provide regulations in order to implement this law. And then what you've got is those agencies are then deciding, well, we're just going to do whatever we want. And they're in fact writing law from the executive branch. These are people that you didn't vote for, that I didn't vote for. They are accountable to absolutely nobody except the political guy, the political boss who put them in place. That's it.
Mm.
And how it's affecting us is, once again, they in many cases, like I could just tell you in California, a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the California Department of Justice, these folks have no idea what they're talking about or what they're doing. And a lot of times they're handed legislation from politicians who know nothing about firearms technology, or firearms policy, and then they're being told to implement the impossible. Great example, look at question 1 in the state of Nevada. It was so poorly written this was as a proposition. The attorney general said there is no way that this can be implemented. Now, that is what a constitutional executive officer should do. Say, I can't just rewrite it and make it up as I go along. If you hand me something that's not implementable, I have a responsibility to hand it back to you and say, no, you need to fix this and make it right. What other attorneys generals are doing is they're taking it and they're saying, well, their goal was to restrict gun rights, so we're going to do whatever we can. And once again, we're just going to make it up as we go. And so we're winding up as gun owners trying to comply with laws, and they are so confusing. The people implementing them don't know how to implement them. So if they don't know how to enforce the law, how are we supposed to comply with the law?
Especially in California, when you have a website that you're supposed to go through to register your assault weapon, and then it goes down 24 hours. And the only way for you to get any help is to call a helpline, and they say, well, you have to register online. How are you supposed to follow in on that? You know?
Yeah. And when they tell you, well, you should have done this before. I mean, it is, once again, and then on top of it, and here's the other thing that's happening with that, is you actually have them taking, because what they did was with the new assault weapon registration, they had you send in photos. Well, one of the things that they've been doing is now taking those photos. If they see something a little hinky, you're going to get a knock on your door.
Yes.
From the California Department of Justice. There was a prominent farmer in Bakersfield, California, who this happened to. Now, think about this. If you knew that your firearm was not in compliance with the law, would you be sending photos of it to the people who are likely to fine you and arrest you? No. But why? And so instead of saying, you know what, these are things that we see in these photos that are concerning, you need to fix that and resend the photos. Instead of doing that and allowing them to get in compliance, they send law enforcement to arrest them.
Yep. And that's just completely, this is so backwards. I just don't understand. I mean, I understand why they're trying to do it, but at the same time, I just don't understand why they can't come up with a cohesive thought on how to do it correctly. So, but before I move on, I had a super chat come in from Alaskan Ballistics. I sure do appreciate him spending his evening, another fellow YouTuber up in the Great White North. So he says, what's the best way to fight red flag laws? Here in Alaska, they defeated HB 75, but the libs are trying to push it again. So do you have any opinions or thoughts on, what's the best way to fight those types of laws?
Well, obviously there's two places to fight. One is in the legislative process. The other is in the courts. Understand that this is not just a violation of our Second Amendment rights. This is a violation of due process rights. It's a violation of unreasonable search and seizure. Think about it. Someone who may or may not know you can go to a judge in an ex parte hearing, meaning you don't get to be there because you don't even know about it. And they can argue that you are a danger to yourself or others and have your rights taken away. And when you do eventually get to go to court, you are now guilty until proven innocent, meaning you have to spend God knows how much on a lawyer, on a psychological evaluation to prove that you are not a danger to yourself or others. Oh, and in the meantime, They've come, they've searched your home, they've searched your place of business to find any firearms they think you might have. In the state of Florida, they've seen over 450 instances where this has been implemented in the 2 months that they've been in place. Most of those by one sheriff, from the sheriff right there in Broward County, who we all know is anti-gun. But, you know, those are the sorts of things that we need to be pushing and be talking about.
Do you think that this is going to, and this comes from the chat room here, do you think that this is going to lead to organizations, say like the FBI or another, hopefully, God, the ATF doesn't end up this way, but basically a Overwatch agency that is quote unquote untouchable, like the movies from, you know, from the G-Men days. Do you think that there'll be untouchable state-run organizations that are going to be in charge of finding people who are not in compliance of California laws, for say?
Well, understand that these are already in place, and they're called the whatever your state Department of Justice is. So understand that to a certain degree they already exist, and know that whatever information, I always say this, there's a reason why you talk to a lot of attorneys, and the number one thing they will tell you is, you know what, don't talk to law enforcement without a lawyer. And the reason why they tell you that, it's not that they want you to break the law. They're not saying that, but what they're saying is that when law enforcement is there, when they're engaged with you, they are not there to protect your rights. They are there to enforce the law as they have been directed. Whether it's what they want to do or not what they want to do, they're going to follow the law the way in which they want to be directed. So the most important thing that you can do is know your rights. Know your rights and know exactly how to appropriately exercise your rights. And one of the best ways to do that is to have an attorney, someone who knows and understands firearms law, that you can go to when instances like this do occur.
So that actually brings up a really good text message that I got during the chat. So I appreciate this, but really leads into your thoughts and opinions about some of these organizations out there that are, you know, oh man, I'm spacing out here, but the USCCA and some of these insurance and legal agencies that are out there that support individuals who conceal carry on a daily basis. Are these things good to have, or are they kind of gimmicky?
You know, with everything that's going on right now, first of all, let me just say I am not an attorney, and most importantly, I am none of your viewers' attorney. so I'm not a person that you want to be asking for legal advice. You know, right now with some of the things that have been going on, at least in New York, when it comes to some of the insurance or at least the NRA insurance program and some of the others, it'd be important to take a look at some of the, you know, I think first of all, I think insurance is a good thing. I think protecting yourself in particular from potential litigation is a very good thing, because, you know, if you ever get into a situation where you have to use your firearm, even if you are 100% in the right, it is going to change your life forever. And part of that is going to be financially. If you have to go to court, you could be completely 100% innocent. You're still going to have to drop somewhere, I don't know, $20,000 to $50,000 in attorney's fees. So being able to protect yourself in that case, I think, is vitally important. I think when looking at a program, you have to find out which ones are going to make sure are going to give you the maximum coverage. You know, some cases they make you pay up front. Or they make you pay up front, and then you submit everything, and then they'll reimburse you if they believe it was a good shoot. You know, some of them have their different benefits, and I don't, without getting into talk about any one, know exactly what you're getting. Know one of the other important things, this is one that I learned, know that if you're going to call, if you have a hotline, so you give a phone number, you have a hotline, you're going to call, know that the person that you're talking to on the other end of the line, know if they are an attorney or not. Because if they're not, then guess what you don't have? You don't have privilege. Yep. Meaning, if you call and you say, oh my God, I just shot somebody. They were coming so and so. Anything that you say, and chances are that call is recorded, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. If that person is not an attorney, is not a privileged conversation. So, I mean, those are the sorts of things. I mean, I didn't even think about that, but there's a ton of things that you need to think about when considering those sorts of insurances. In general, I believe they are good and they are important, but you want to make sure that what you have is going to give you the maximum amount of coverage for the most reasonable price.
That's pretty awesome. That's great advice. I didn't even think of that either. I'm going to really have to do some more research, because I've been thinking about going ahead and making the leap into one of these organizations. But I did want to make sure that someone that's plugged in like yourself would have some thoughts on it before I get into it. So real quick, over to the chat room, I wanted to say hey to a whole bunch of people that jumped on in. First, we've got David G. Thank you for swinging in. Kevin Ekdahl, I don't think I said your name yet tonight, but thanks for swinging by. Vanessa Kitty, thank you for swinging by. Barnaby Sanchez, thank you again. Steve Baggin, appreciate it. And I sure do want to say thank you again, Quota Boy, for promoting this live chat. That means a lot. So Kevin Ekdahl actually has a good question here. Do you think you'll ever see a full shift from gun control to ammo regulation?
We're already starting to see it.
Right?
Well, first of all, you have in many places, well, in some places, including California, the ban on lead ammo. You're already starting to see ammunition register, like in California now. In some municipalities, you have ammunition registries. So every time you go to buy ammo, your name, phone number, address, what type of ammo you bought goes into a registry. As of July 1st next year, that's going to start to be a statewide thing. We're not allowed to buy ammunition online anymore. We can buy it, but you have to have it shipped to a licensed ammo vendor. And then when you go in, starting July 1st, 2019, you have to go through a background check in order to be able to purchase ammunition. You have to be in what's called our automated firearm system, meaning you had to have already purchased a firearm in California. We still haven't seen, this law was passed 2 years ago, over 2.5 years ago. And we still haven't seen the regs on the regulations on how exactly this background check is going to be implemented. In particular, for people who maybe owned firearms before APHIS existed, who maybe have changed addresses, because see, your name, all of your information has to match. So what happens if you've changed addresses? It's none of this information. What if you've never purchased a firearm before and you're not in APHIS? I mean, all of these things that we're trying to figure out how exactly they're going to implement, we have absolutely no idea how they're going to do it.
And wasn't there some issues with FFLs or dealers having a good understanding of how they are supposed to be pulled into the system so that they can be an authorized seller of ammunition as well?
Well, all FFLs, if you are an FFL, then you are supposed to be automatically be approved as an ammunition vendor. There was a lot of challenges in terms of getting the certificates out to everybody and getting that all taken care of. I believe at least that part of it has been rectified, at least as far as I know. We haven't heard any recent complaints, or at least I haven't heard of any recent complaints about it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I know that that information is dated. I heard about that earlier this year, or maybe late last year, when they started really diving into the specifics behind all the different changes that California was going to get into. So that's good. Hopefully they've kind of.
Well, one of the things that is still an issue is, especially like, because in some of these cases, you've got people who, maybe you have a liquor store that sells, you do hunting, fishing, tackle, you got the whole shebang, and you also sell ammo. Well, they're not gonna, some of them are just not gonna pay for the cost of everything that it's going to take in order to be approved to become an ammunition vendor. You're going to have some communities that just are not going to have access to ammunition. People are literally going to have to drive hundreds of miles in order to be able to purchase ammunition. So there's still a lot of problems with it. I just think not in terms of the how someone who's already an FFL can get approved.
Very good. Very good. I feel for you guys out there in California. I will tell you that I'm extremely ignorant of a lot of these different policies, concerns, whatever you want to call it. I know that Vanessa Kitty was saying that you have to have a permit in order for you to, or a license or permit for you to even buy ammunition in Connecticut. This is stuff that I've never had to deal with, regardless if I've lived in Kansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kentucky. I've never had to deal with these different types of issues, so it's all new to me.
Well, you take places like New Jersey, where I had Alexander Rubian from the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. He was telling me that in order to purchase a firearm in the state of New Jersey, you have to get approved for a permit. And some people have literally taken up to 2 years to get approved for a permit. There was one lady who applied for a permit, was applying. She kept saying, "Look, I need this. My husband is violent. He's been doing this and doing that. He's threatened me. I have a restraining order against him. He's already said he's going to kill me." And literally he wound up eventually stabbing her to death while she was still waiting to get approved in order to be able to purchase a handgun. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, it is crazy in some places. But what I tell people is this, and I always hear people say, "Well, you should just leave California." And I'm like this: if invaders came to invade your home, would you just cut and run? Would you just leave, or would you fight?
Exactly.
California, I was born here. I was raised here. I've lived here all my life. And can afford to be here. For me, I'm going to be here. And as long as we're fighting the fight in places like California, Hawaii, New Jersey, as long as we're on the front lines fighting, then that's less that you're going to have to fight in your states, because this stuff isn't stopping here in California. It's not. It's what Washington, Oregon, and Nevada are already starting to see the Californication of their gun laws. And legislators are already trying to implement California-style gun control in those states. Because, see, here's what's happening. People who are leaving California are not just leaving because they don't like the politics. Many of them are leaving because it's just too expensive. Now, a lot of those folks are anti-gun, and they're taking their anti-gun politics with them to Texas, to Arizona, to Kansas, to Idaho, to free America, as I like to call y'all, free America. And they are seeking to have those very same policies implemented. So you're seeing them proposed. And I just tell you, if y'all get lax, trust me, you're going to see it implemented. You're going to, all of a sudden, you're going to turn around, and there's already states that are passing these red flag laws. You've got Republican governors signing these things. You've got Republican legislators supporting this legislation, supporting legislation restricting 18 to 20-year-olds from being able to own or possess a long gun. These are kids who are young adults, let's clarify, who are criminally and civilly liable for the decisions they make. They're adults. They have the right to vote. They can be sent halfway around the world, handed a rifle, and told to defend the country, but they can't have a rifle to defend their own home.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. We're okay as a society of taking, say, a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old to throw them in the military and go halfway around the world and use a fully automatic weapon. But we're not okay with an 18-year-old able to have a pistol or a AR-15 or whatever the case may be.
And once again, it's all based on feelings, because the numbers just don't bear it out. They say, well, most gun violence is committed by those under the age of 21. But when you break down the numbers, first of all, understand that in most cases, those are either drug or gang related. And 96% of the time, the firearm that they have, guess what? They didn't buy it legally. So I don't understand where people are coming from with that. The numbers just don't bear it out. How many 18 to 20-year-olds are going out and committing crimes with firearms that they legally purchased? Almost none.
Yes. And one of the things they always love to gloss over is the idea that anywhere between, 250,000 and 3 million crimes are stopped by a lawfully carrying individual. So it just really,
they continually say that doesn't happen. It's a myth. Shannon Watts from Moms Demand Action, she continually lies and says, no, the statistics say that doesn't happen. Well, guess what? We know that the CDC has been collecting data on this for years. and they say they acknowledge that it happens. So
for an organization, the CDC, they don't even want to deal with the whole, gun rights or even firearm research. They don't even want to deal with it because they know that it's not going to work out in their favor, especially in the previous administration.
Well, exactly. That one of the biggest lies you will hear anti-gun community spout is, well, the federal government, the CDC can't do any research. They're forbidden from doing research on gun violence. It's like, no, they're just not allowed to advocate for gun control. They can do all the research they want, but they're just not allowed to advocate. And because they can't advocate, they can't use their hundreds of millions of dollars. They can't find a small piece of that to actually do some research.
Yeah. Well, hey, real quick, Kevin Ekdahl, thank you so much. Really appreciate that with the super chat there. Hopefully you got your question answered. We did have another question pop in from Mystery Family, and you touched on it earlier, and I was hoping that you could kind of clarify. So I hate to back up here a little bit, but in regards to red flag laws, and I'm trying to find where it went. He said he didn't quite understand how red flag laws circumvent the Fourth and Fifth Amendment.
Well, think about this. First of all, you have a right to face your accuser. But in these ex parte hearings, you don't even know about them. So if you don't even know about them, well, then how do you have a chance to face a chance your accuser? And then once again, so then they go to court, the judge makes a decision, you now lose your rights. It may only be temporarily, but you've lost your rights until you go back to court. And some states don't even have an established process where you're guaranteed to go back to court. But then when you go back to court, you are now guilty till proven innocent. In other words, you must prove that you are not a danger to yourself or to others, whether it is suicide, whether it is potential mass shooting, whatever it was that caused them to believe that you are a danger to yourself or others. You now have to disprove that. Well, how exactly do you do that? Do you go get an attorney? Do you have to go get a psychological evaluation? Keep in mind, there was no psychological evaluation that made you, by any mental health professional, that deemed you to be a danger to yourself or others. So, I mean, I think that I agree. I'm in agreement with him in that I don't understand how they get around that. The only way I understand how they get around it is that the courts have yet to actually stand up for our constitutional rights.
Yeah, and that's I think kind of you're touching on the point that Mystery Family is kind of confused on is how is it that that someone can bring this case in front of a judge without you even being there.
Well, and they use the example of domestic violence restraining orders.
Yes.
But the difference, I think, with the domestic violence restraining order is that number one, at the very least, you're being accused of a crime. That's number one. And the other is that it's not specifically targeting your constitutional rights. Now, in general, with restraining orders, you do, in some states, if you have a restraining order against you, you do lose your right to keep and bear arms. But I don't know if that's the case in every state. I do know that when it comes to gun violence restraining orders, it is a restraining order that specifically targets a constitutionally enumerated right.
There you go. And that's really, I have to hold back because this really gets to touching a lot of my nerve points, and I just kind of have to let it go and allow you to speak.
Welcome to my world.
Oh my goodness. So I got a break right here because Nico, my friend, thank you so much. It's ridiculous. Nico just dropped $100 in super chat and has requested, and so not to put Craig on the spot, but he has requested to have you, myself, KD from NOC Firearms Training, and hopefully maybe even Toto Boy, maybe see if we can get the four of us together and do a live chat and hit on some very poignant conversation points if you are interested in doing so.
It's always a possibility.
Yep. So we will, Nico, we will start, at least I will start sending out emails to gather everybody to see when they're available, if this is something that they're interested in. But at the very least, thank you so very, very much. Now, this is going to be something that I haven't really shared with shared with anybody. I haven't shared this with Craig, but my plan was to take some of my own money and donate my money to the Firearms Policy Coalition. I know that there's a number of different ways that you can do that. Craig, how can people support you financially to help with the fight?
Well, first of all, it's real simple. You can become a member. It's really inexpensive to become a member. You can do that at joinfpc.org. You can also support FPC if you go to firearmspolicy.org. You can check out our just click on our donate page. You can go there as well. We also encourage people, check out what we're doing. We have I host a every day of the week. I have a morning coffee with Craig that you can see on both Facebook and YouTube. Where we talk about whatever the issues are for the day. Every Saturday morning, you have This Week in Gun Rights, which is kind of a comical take on whatever issues are going on that particular week. You can support us by subscribing to either one of those, as well as sharing that information with your friends.
Outstanding. So I will be making a contribution. I've already signed up. I hadn't made the jump on exactly where I wanted to jump in on correct me if I'm wrong, it's a monthly contribution, something like Patreon. Is that right?
Yes. You can. Well, you can do monthly, or you can just do a one-time membership, or you can sign up and you can do a monthly contribution.
Outstanding. So I'll be doing both. I will be doing a one-time and a monthly contribution because I really do truly believe in everything that you're doing. I know it's an uphill battle, especially in California and some of these other very restrictive states that we have out there, and it's just one of the ways that I can say thank you for everything that you're doing. It's just amazing what you're able to do out on your island, is if you want to call it that. So that is,
I like to say we're behind enemy lines in the belly of the beast.
Yes. I don't know, have you had a chance to meet Joel Persinger with Gun Guy TV? He's out in California, in San Diego.
We have talked a number of times, and I have not had the opportunity to meet him in person. Very good individual, and I very much appreciate his willingness to be engaged and inform people about what's going on here as well.
Absolutely. So he's also making the comments that he's behind enemy lines in a bunker is where he does his YouTube videos. So it's
I prefer to do mine right out in the open. A lot of times, if you watch a lot of our videos, a lot of the things that I'm doing, I'm also our lobbyist. So I'm right there in the Capitol, and literally staring the enemy in the face as I'm fighting. So yeah, so I like the little bit different perspective in that case.
Yep, absolutely. So Mystery Family jumped in with another question here. He says, so as internet forums such as YouTube has been discriminating against firearm channels and such, and are starting to see some of these channels disappear, regardless if they're just tired of dealing with it, if they get struck down, whatever the case may be. How do we stay in touch since we all live in different areas? Do you any thoughts on best ways to keep in touch on these really hot topic issues?
Well, they always say that necessity is the mother of invention. I think one of the things you're going to start to see as these platforms become more restrictive when it comes to free speech, you're going to start to see other platforms that are going to start to open up. I really do believe you're going to start, and I think you've already seen some already kind of begin to go down that road. I know that right now, at least right now, we're still here because we're consistent. Once again, we are consistent with their policies. For lack of a better term, we are compliant to the degree. But because what we're talking about here is we're talking about policy, and we're realizing more and more. And I think even people who are not necessarily firearms people or gun supporters or supporters of the Second Amendment are recognizing that they're starting to, both the government and some of these larger corporations are actually starting to infringe on our constitutional rights, on our other constitutional rights. And as they start to have an impact on our ability to communicate, they're going to start to see, I think, support of them and their products decline as well.
But they're a private organization, so they can discriminate at will, right?
Well, one of the things you're starting to see that's come, that there's a lot of conversation where people are saying, look, a lot of these social media companies and internet companies are becoming almost de facto oligarchs or oligopolies.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know if
we'll
I just
go
made
with
up a
that.
word or
Yes.
not. Monopolies. But in essence, they're almost becoming like the utilities are, like public utilities are. And as they are becoming more and more the public square, then they are going to be held to a higher and a different standard. In other words, that's really what's happening now is that it's not like there's a public square where we're going out and we're standing and we're asking for our redress. A great example was when Donald Trump tried to prohibit someone or tried to block someone on his Twitter feed. They took him to court and they won. They won because they, look, you're a public official. This is a public, this is the public square. Well, one of the things that's going to start, I believe, now this is me, I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, but I believe that more and more a new body of law is going to start to come out, and it's going to start addressing the issue of internet and social media as the new public square. And that is because of that, just like with utilities, you're going to start, or banks, you're going to start to see a greater emphasis on regulation.
And that's why I say that everybody should bank with Wells Fargo. They came out and said, you know what, we don't care. As long as it's legal, we don't care what you do. I kid.
Just hope they don't open up a bunch of accounts in your name without telling you.
Exactly. That's one of the major problems. I do have a mortgage through Wells Fargo. So when I saw that news come out, that they're like, yeah, we don't care. We're not going to not do business with individuals who are firearms companies. That made me proud. But then on the opposite side of the coin, you've got issues with accounts being opened up under your name. And yeah, so I guess you got to take the good with the bad.
There you go. There you go.
So we've got just a few minutes here real quick. I did send a link to a Wall Street Journal article. Did you get a chance to read that by chance?
I did not get a chance to read it, unfortunately.
Okay, no problem. So here's the quick version, as they said in Spaceballs. Basically, we're starting to see a lot more political campaigns, political ads, basically, that are really focusing and emphasizing on gun control. They're really thrusting gun control into the political debate in interim ads to try to shift a lot of individuals' thoughts and basically their votes away from the incumbents to these new upstart individuals who really want to get rid of assault weapons, or we need to make sure that only 21-year-olds can buy weapons, or whatever the case may be. Do you really think that this is basically going to have an impact on the election, or is it just the media and politics grandstanding?
Well, I think that there is a major misstep for them, I think, in their thinking, and it's this. They don't understand that people who are anti-gun, people who are anti-Second Amendment, are generally not single-issue voters, meaning that if they're going to vote against a candidate because of their position on firearms, they're going to vote against. They were going to vote against them anyway. They were going to find another reason to vote against them, and they're specifically doing this. Keep in mind, they're targeting Republicans with this. Now, I've asked political consultant after political consultant, and I've yet to have one answer this question. Name one Republican elected official who has lost an election because they voted pro-gun. Here in California, we had last election cycle, we had 4 candidates who were running in various different seats that were incumbents that had voted anti-gun. 3 out of the 4 did not get reelected. 3 out of the 4. Now, you also had Democrats, 6 Democrats who voted pro-gun, who had A's with a number of different organizations. And guess what? Every single one of them got reelected. The reason why is because pro-gun voters are much more likely to be single-issue voters. Much more likely. So I think that they're spending a lot of bad money. And I think that Republicans in particular, who believe that voting anti-gun and taking anti-gun positions in order to win an election, in order to curry favor with people, I think that in the end is what is going to cost them.
Very, very much so. That's a very good point. I will freely admit that in the past, I would look to a particular individual who I'm voting for, and look at the NRA rating. Are they an A? Are they a B? Are they a D and an F? And vote that way. I'm taking a concerted effort this time, and I highly encourage each and every single one of you out there listening to ensure that you are doing the research on whoever you're voting for, regardless if they're pro-gun, anti-gun, if they're pro-tax, anti-tax. It doesn't matter. You got to do the research before you go to the polls. It is your obligation to do so, in my humble opinion. So that's where I stand. Speaking of voting, I'm going to have to throw in a last little question here, and it's going to, hopefully it doesn't sideswipe you, but thoughts on Kavanaugh? What's going on with that? What do you think?
I believe that in the end he's going to wind up getting confirmed. More and more, I think the average person is looking at this, and I think that even people who believe that these accusations may be true, they have a question with the credibility. When you look at it, and a large part of it is not even really the person making the accusation. It's how the Democrat political leaders have handled this. This complaint, this letter has been around. It's been in Dianne Feinstein's hands since July. This all could have been brought up as part of the background, as part of his background research. It all could have been brought up and involved in when they did the questioning. And yet all of a sudden, a week before he's about to get confirmed, there's to be a confirmation vote. All of a sudden, then they want to bring this up. I just think that people don't have patience for it. People want to believe. I would hate to think that I could be accused of something from 36, 40 years ago, and now I've got to now defend it. And then on top of having to defend it, I'm going to be put in a situation where they're going to restrict how I can then defend myself. They want to limit my ability to be able to defend myself. And I think the average American is like, no, evidently. And then I don't doubt that this woman went through something. I don't know. I really don't. But I do know that there's got to, if we're going to have justice, there's got to be a way to have due process, and the way in which to sideswipe it, to ruin his career over a 40-year-old accusation with absolutely no evidence. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the news today, but I guess there may be another accuser coming out of the woodwork. I don't know. I just saw the headline pop up. So I don't. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But
if we're going to investigate, 40-year-old, potential rape allegations, well, then I think it's time that we get Juanita Broderick in and have her do some testifying.
Yep, absolutely. Might as well. It's just, but Walter here in the chat room says he may get confirmed, since most Americans are getting tired of scandals. I think we're kind of shell shocked at this point when it comes to all the different bombardment that we see on a daily basis of the outrage culture that we're living in. And let's see, someone was saying, why did Feinstein sit on it since July? They sat on it because it was their ace in the hole to delay the confirmation hearings until after the election. I firmly believe that.
Exactly.
Firmly, that's what it was. So anyway, so Well, sir, we've really hit it's right on an hour. Well, we're over hour and 5 minutes. I want to just kind of turn it over to you for the last little bit here for anything else that you want to bring up or talk about, any concerns, comments, complaints, manifestos, anything at all. Uh, Tell us where we can find you once again and what else you got coming up on the calendar.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to tell everybody, thank you for those of you who are interested enough to actually take the time to hear about the issues. It's important. I can tell you there are very few people there. Let me clarify. There are a lot of people in the shooting sports, in the hunting world, who really don't care about and will not listen to or talk about Second Amendment firearms policy, and are more happy for some reason to be victims of that policy when it's eventually passed and implemented than to actually be step out ahead. So the fact that every single one of you are willing to take the time to listen to this show, and for you to actually host this conversation, I want to say thank you. I also want to say that understand that, the other side, they are committed. They are well-funded. They have multimillionaires and billionaires that are supporting them. And they are taking a long-term approach to taking away our constitutional civil rights. We have to be as committed, and we have to take the time to join and support the organizations that are doing. If you don't have the time, or if you don't have the time and the ability to go to your state capitol or to go to your city council or to go to the federal, then you need to support the organizations that are. And I'm not just talking about FPC, although, yes, I would like you to support FPC, but whatever organizations are doing what they're doing in your state, in your city, at the federal level. I tell people, you know what? You need to be members of the NRA, because the NRA, if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have a president who appointed one pro Second Amendment Supreme Court justice and would have nominated another one. So it's important that we support the organizations that are supporting our rights. Please do me, if you do us all a favor, let people know about the Firearms Policy Coalition. People who hear about who we are. And by the way, if you don't want to tell people about us until you know about us, take time, visit our YouTube channel, visit our Facebook page, visit our website, see the work that we're doing. Take a look at the stuff that we're doing, the stuff that we're involved in, that we're engaged with, and you will find we are a small organization, but we are mighty, and we are involved in a lot of places. And know that every penny that you contribute to the Firearms Policy Coalition goes right into the fight. We don't have a big, huge bureaucracy. Every penny goes right directly into the fight. You can find us at firearmspolicy.org, at facebook.com/gun policy. Or just if you go to YouTube, you can just look up Firearms Policy Coalition, and you'll find us there as well.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Craig. I sure do appreciate it. And like he said, please, by all means, go out, watch the YouTube videos, share it on Facebook. While you're on Facebook, like and follow the Firearms Policy Coalition on Facebook and share their stuff. Get the information out. Get that. Get all of the witty banter that you throw in with your mornings with Craig out there to everybody. So with that being said, I wanted to take just a moment to say a special thank you to the Grim Reaper, Nico, Alaskan Ballistics, and Kevin Ekdahl. You guys donating to the channel through the super chat. Thank you so much. That truly means a lot to me. I just want to say real quick that, again, I'm going to be making a donation to the Firearms Policy Coalition because that's how much I believe in what Craig and his team is doing. I encourage you guys to think about it as well. I'm not asking you to do it, but it would be pretty awesome if you did, because they're awesome and everything that they're doing. Real quick shout out to Jarhead6. I saw that he just jumped in here late and we're shutting things down. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Craig, thank you so much for joining. This has been an awesome and educational live chat. I've been nervous about it all day because I watch you on a regular basis, and I really pull in a lot of information off of all of your YouTube videos, all the stuff that you're putting on Instagram, your Facebook feed, and so on and so forth. So I do appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for that, sir.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Outstanding. So as we close everything up, thank you again to the live chat. Thank you to all of my awesome supporters out there in the live chat. You guys are just crushing it. Please, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out with the analytics. And I sure do appreciate you spending a Monday night with me. Don't forget, if you guys are interested, there are links down in the description below to find all the different places that you can find the Firearms Policy Coalition. There's also links down there as well for you to support the channel if you guys are interested, whether it be Patreon or looking through my website, fitandfire.com. I would appreciate all of it. And again, thank you to all the super chats out there. Nico, man, I'm still looking at that C note up there. I sure do appreciate that. That's going to mean a lot. So with that, that's really all we got this time. Thank you so much again for spending your Monday nights, and we will get out of here. And as always, keep calm and carry. See you guys later. Bye.